Hey guys, it's Julian. Today I want to be talking to you about the much requested how to make dark techno in the style of Liebing, Flug, Second State, Pan Pot, sort of that, a little bit faster stuff, a little bit more aggressive, but still very much like nice, powerful, straightforward big room arrangements. And yeah, as usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available at the top of the description, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's get started. Alright, so right off the bat you can see we're at 134 BPM, and the first thing that we have here is the kick. So as you can hear with this track, the kick and the bass are kind of just one thing. So what's happening is we have our kick, and then I have this rolling rumble here, and all that this is it's just the kick just playing 16th notes. You can see I played with the velocity a little bit, so it's like little details like that are making a big difference here. Having this note every time be the loudest. So all you do is you just put in those 16th notes, and then I just low passed it. And then you get just the rumble. This is a really good way to make a rumble though, because it kind of makes it a bit more aggressive and a bit more full, because like if you use reverb to make your rumble, you're gonna get, it kind of like fades out. With this, you get like one solid rumble the whole time. So I like doing this when that's what you're looking for. And then I just have that going through a side chain, so just being side chained to the dry kick. And then I have this EQ to cut out a little bit of space at 100 Hz, because that's typically where we want this kick to punch through. And then we just have a bit of processing on the group of these. So you can see each of these three things aren't really doing too much on their own, but it's like how they all come together. Here's without it. And with it. So you can hear it's already a really good kick and bass line. And then these little bits of processing are just the last thing that we need to really tie it together and drive the whole thing home. So the first thing here is actually a bit of a low end boost, and that's just to kind of bring up the rumble and just the bass in the kick and the bass a bit more. And then we have the saturator, which is just doing a pretty standard thing. Usually I'll do this, I'll have a bit of saturation on the kick and the bass at the same time. It helps to kind of fill in some of the harmonic space, and it glues them together so that you get one really tight low end rather than it just really comes together rather than having it all kind of sound like two separate sounds. And then the last thing here is actually a limiter. So this is something that a lot of people do when they're making their kicks, and I'm only just now realizing this lately. But basically what it does is, it just kind of pushes the kick and the rumble closer together. And the secret is you don't do too much. Here's without it. And then with it. Again without it. And then with it. So you hear, it's not doing a whole lot. It just kind of gives you that little extra sort of magic glue over the kick and bass to just really get that fullness and really make it sound professional. You need to just do this to really get it to hit and just be as full as it can possibly be. And this is one of those things that if you're super anal, I guess I'll say, about compression and limiting and stuff, this may seem like the opposite of what you would want to do, but I guarantee you a lot of producers are doing this in their project files, and it's just a really, really good way to get your kick and bass sounding really fat when you're doing a rumble kick like this. Then we have these acid sounds. So you can see the sounds on these, I'll explain in a moment, but it's really about how they play off of each other, because we have this one that's just constantly, and then you juxtapose that with this one, which is obviously a lot slower, and then when you put those together, you get this really nice pattern. So you really want to think about that. It's not always just a matter of having one. A lot of times you can have 2, 3, or 3s like this, and having them play off of each other is really going to create a whole dynamic in the track. And also something to keep in mind here is they're two very different sounding 303s. For one is playing a more like rolling 16th note pattern, while this one's playing a kind of slower pattern. But also you can just hear like, this is a lot more of like a kind of mid-rangey, saw wavy sort of sound. Whereas this one's a bit more of like a low mids sort of like square wave sound. So you can see, yeah, here's the MIDI on that one. It's just playing D and then D an octave up. Really simple. For the sound, it's made with operators. So what we have is a saw wave and a square wave. And then, yeah, even though this is meant to be more of just like a square wave, you know, adding the saw in there does really help to just make it really fat. And then it's just like how you blend them. You can see the square wave is a lot louder and then the saw wave's turned down. And then those are going into a bandpass filter with an envelope on it. You can also see I have the hard shaper on there. And then the filter's being automated. And this is really important. You want to make sure that this doesn't just sit in the same place. If we turn off the automation, you know, it can be really dry that way. The automation is what's going to bring it to life and make it feel exciting. And then we just have some echo. I like using this quarter note echo. It's really slow, but it gives it kind of a nice, like, rhythm. You can see that's on the ping pong setting. Then we just have some drum bus and a high pass filter. And then this is just being sidechained to the kick. And then for the second 03, so here's the pattern on this one. And this is actually using what's called a polyrhythm. Basically, if you listen to this one, you know, it's very straightforward. As soon as you hear that high note, you know it's like back to the next count. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's a bit different because it's just going like bow, 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 bow. You can't so easily count 1, 2, 3, 4 under it. Now, when you put these in context together, you can. You can very easily count where that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 is happening. And so this is the polyrhythm, is the fact that we're having two different rhythms, multiple, poly meaning multiple, rhythms playing at once. And that's the idea. It's really simple sounds with creative things happening between them, and that's what's going to create a track essentially. So for this sound, it's made with operator as well. You can see this is a saw wave and a square wave, and then with this one the saw wave's a bit louder, but we still have the square in there to make it fat. Because if we get rid of the square, there's just a saw wave. And then with the square wave. So you can hear what the square does. Like, it's not so in your face, but it's important. But then those are going into a bandpass filter, which has an envelope on it. You can see with these 303 sounds, you really want, like, not too much envelope. Like, it's only on 9%, but it works great because it's a bandpass filter, and we have a high resonance. And then I get the shaper on that. We have some automation on that filter as well. That one's a bit slower, and just kind of, like, evolving over time. But again, very important, just like with the other one. And then we have a bit of echo, just doing 16th notes. Since there's a lot of space between these notes, 16th notes worked really well. Then we have some drum bus, which you can see like really fattens this up. And then we just have a high pass filter, and then it's being sidechained to the kick. Just the kick, not the rumble. Not like the kick bass, but just the kick. And yeah, that's it for the acid sounds. Then we have our hi-hats. So we have these two. So just this nice like mid-rangey shaker with this hi-hat. You can hear those two make up the main hi-hat that's playing on the upbeats. But then we also have these two little background shakers. And those are creating kind of their own nice little percussion loop just by having one be a lot louder. You get this kind of like, you know, it's different than just the standard. And then all those four little layers are going through their own group, which has a bit of reverb on it, so you can hear that Just gives those all kind of the same space. And then we have a bit of saturation to fatten those up. And then for the rest of the percussion, we just have this clap. So you can hear how that's fitting in there, you know. Just adds some extra percussive sounds that aren't just going to be the hi-hats. And speaking of extra percussive sounds, we also have this little noise percussion down here, which you can actually hear plays off of the clap. So yeah, this just plays on that same, like, that same count every time. And so all this is it's just some white noise here, you can see, with a short envelope. And then I put it through a bandpass filter with like a pretty nice amount of resonance. The bandpass is right there. And then we have the hard shaper on there, so it's making it really punchy. And then I have an LFO on the filter cutoff. So it's just moving that around and making it so it's not just the same thing the whole way through, but it's kind of changing and evolving. I've heard stuff like this in a lot of these tracks. You know, a lot of these people use like modular synthesis and different concepts like that to try to get these types of sounds. But you can actually just create this with like Ableton stuff. You know, it's just about getting creative, making a powerful sound that evolves and changes over the course of the track. And then we just have some echo, just dotted eighth notes on that, with a bit of drum bus to fatten it up. This really helps to get it away from sounding like a synth as well. And then that's it for the noise percussion. And then the last percussion down here is just this ride. So yeah, it's just a standard techno ride. I've got a high pass on it. This is like not the loudest thing in the mix, as you can hear, but it's adding some nice highs and energy. And the thing with this is, so we have two effects. So I've got the drum bus, obviously just making it fatter. But then the stereo widening rack. This is my ultimate stereo widening rack. And this is really good with the rides to widen them out, because you want to kind of like put them in a different place from the hi-hats. Like if I turn this off, it gets buried a little bit because it's fighting for the space with all those other elements. But if you spread it out, it's kind of in its own place now. So it doesn't have to fight so much with those other sounds, and you can have the ride a lot more prominent in the mix. And then on the group of all that percussion, just to tie it all together a little bit, give it all kind of an even texture, I just have a little bit of drum bus here. So here's without that. And then with it, you can hear it's just giving that extra sort of push to everything, really gluing all the percussion together and making it all as big and as full as possible. And yeah, so that is going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything like that from this video is available at the top of the description on my Bandcamp for just $5. This is a really great way to support me. It's only $5, and you get all these great samples and presets and MIDI and the project file. And it just really helps keep me going so I can keep bringing you guys new videos every day. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.